everyone, welcome back to Blackpack Homestead and to the third part of our series, Raising Meat Rabbits. And today we will be talking about breeding. So, you want to raise meat rabbits, do you? Well, there are a lot of things you need to know. One of the first things that is most important is to know how old your rabbit needs to be healthy and have a good gestation and a good birth and produce enough milk to raise a good litter of kids. So, the doe, or the girl rabbit, needs to be at least 6 months old. Now, rabbits can breed at 12 weeks, but it is not recommended to breed them until they are full grown, and which is between 5 and 6 months old is the optimum time to breed a girl rabbit. And the bucks, you can start breeding with them just a little bit younger. You can start a buck at 4 to 5 months. But you really want to make sure that your rabbits are full-grown adults and able to handle motherhood and pregnancy. Now, it's a funny thing about rabbits, you know, most animals like dogs, and cattle and goats and all these things, they all have a heat cycle. You know, they will go into heat every 28 days or every 21 days, whatever the cycle of that animal is. A rabbit does not really have a heat cycle to speak of, because a rabbit can be put in with a buck roughly 28 days out of a 30-31 day month, and she should lift and be receptive to breeding. But every now and then there are like 2 or 3 days in a month that a doe will not be receptive, and we have experienced this. So this is true. This happens. This happened to us this spring. We had a doe refuse to breed. So we must have hit that day. But the greatest success we've had with breeding is when we do it by the full moon or the new moon. We've had the most success with having our does lift and be bred on the full moon. We really have. It's really worked out well for us. So we're going to shoot for that this fall. So since they don't have a heat cycle, how do they get pregnant? How does that work? Well, a rabbit does not ovulate until the act of breeding has taken place. The act of breeding is what stimulates the doe to ovulate. And so that's why you can breed animal, and no, don't you get in that flower bed. You can breed a doe one day and she could still drop eggs in the next 24 hours and get pregnant. And I think that's what happened with our last breeding, because Quicksilver kidded on day 31, and that's just weird. They usually kid between, I've had them kid on day 29 and day 30, but I've never had them kid on day 31, and that's what Quicksilver did to us this spring. So there are, you know, ins and outs of breeding your rabbit. Another important thing about breeding rabbits is you always take your doe to your buck. Because if you take your buck to your doe, he's going to be more interested in her cage, and she's going to be more territorial because she's marked that cage. That's her area. Whereas if you take her and you put her in his cage where he's totally comfortable, it's his territory, he can prove dominance, and the doe should be submissive and lift because it's a new environment.
After a little dancing round.
Yes, they do. They rabbit dance. You'll see them in the video that I'm going to cut in right here. You see the rabbit dance going on. They circle each other, and then sometimes they'll play a patty cake, and they definitely prove dominance before they're going to breed. And like I said, hopefully you'll see that in the video I'm going to splice in here. And when that doe lifts, she'll lay on her belly, you'll see in the video, and she'll lift her rear end just enough for that buck to get in there and do his job. and he gets up there and he does his job, and how you know breeding has taken place is that buck is going to fall off that doe like he just passed out. It is the funniest thing. When we started researching rabbits and we were learning about it, and we watched like so many rabbit breedings just to watch that poor buck. I mean, he's exhausted, God love him, and he passes out. And then he jumps up, recovers, and goes at it again. And in order to ensure that you're going to have a good-sized litter, you absolutely must have what is called 3 fall-offs, where the buck mounts the doe 3 separate times and falls off 3 separate times. Because the times that we have been like, oh, it's took them a long time, they've bred twice, let's take them out, we've ended up with a smaller litter. So there you go, the act of breeding, stimulate ovulation, bigger litter, therefore 3 breedings or 3 fall-offs. So that is the breeding portion of the rabbit breeding part. Now let's talk about the gestation of the rabbit. When the rabbit is pregnant, how long is she pregnant? Well, I've already said usually gestation is 30 days, and like I said, I've had the does have them as early as 29 days and as late as 31. So just as an average, 30 days, okay? When your doe hits 28th day of gestation, 28th day after her pregnancy, you need to provide her with a nesting box and lots of hay. Because around day 28, a lot of them, sometimes some of them will do it earlier. Our Guinevere is the hay stash and fur pulling queen, and as soon as you give her a box, and sometimes before, she'll pull fur and make a nest like a week before she's due. So day 28, day 27, absolutely get that nest box in there. Lots of hay, because they're going to build a beautiful little rounded nest. Pull tons of fur to keep those baby rabbits warm, because they don't have fur when they're born. Does tend to give birth in the wee hours of the morning. It is very rare to catch your doe in labor. Very rare. We have seen Guinevere like immediately after, and it was like her first kindling, and that's what you call rabbits giving birth, kindling. It was her first kindling, and she had 5 babies, and 2 of them didn't make it. One of them she had on the wire, and it was deformed, and that can happen in first breeding. Her body's got to learn how to do it, you know, and so that can happen in their first breeding, so watch out for that. You know, she's got to figure out how she's supposed to take care of these little squirmy, furless things. And they figure it out really quick. By Guinevere's next litter, no problems. Had a good litter of 6, all in the nest box. But when you get to day 28, I start checking my nest box a couple of times a day, going down there, making sure she still has plenty of hay to make a nest, make sure she started pulling fur. You know, and I also give them a calcium supplement. It's just a regular Tums, because sometimes labor can stall, and calcium will help labor come back on. And I'll usually put a Tums like in their food dish around about day 28 roughly, and then if they eat that one, I'll put one in a day, because they know what their body needs better than I do. You just need to provide them with those things, and they'll eat them, and sometimes they don't. You just have to see how that goes. So then once your rabbits give birth, teaser, that's the next video, is all about raising up healthy baby kits and some of the health problems you could run into raising little kits in a nest box.
And we urge y'all to only breed during the cooler seasons. You do not want to breed during the warm seasons. Rabbits are the total opposite of most animals. They thrive during the winter time. That's their time to do their thing. You wouldn't think those little babies would stay warm in that nest, but I'll tell you what, you can start reaching your hand down in the nest and you can just feel the heat radiating off of it.
Oh, they're warm.
It is super warm.
I mean,
wintertime, fall time, springtime.
Depending
is your
on
time.
where you live. If you have very harsh winters and live in the frozen north where you stay below zero, please don't breed in the winter. Breed in your spring and your fall, and maybe even for you guys in the frozen north, early summer would be good, because I know y'all don't start getting your warm weather till like July. So, you know, depending on where you live, the rule of thumb is, you know, is like ambient temperatures. You don't want it too hot, you don't want it too cold. You don't want it over 70 degrees, and you don't want it under 32 degrees. Okay, and that's just a good rule of thumb, and that's why we choose to breed in the early spring and in the fall. Early spring, our kits can be born in February, and we still get snow in February. And we have had 6-8 inches of snow on the ground and furless baby kits born in fur and hay. And all I did to make myself have a peace of mind was I took a little baby blanket and I spread it over the back half of the nest box so that it would hold more heat in, and the mama rabbits seem to understand that, and they leave it there. So that and then the things I talked about in the preparing your rabbits for all seasons and the housing episode. You know, they're going to have those blankets over the cage as well as those tarps. So, anything else?
All right. No, not that I can think of. I think you pretty much covered it.
Let me just look over my notes. Let's see. We've talked. Oh, I wanted to talk about what kind of rabbit we raise, because we've not really mentioned that. You mentioned it yesterday.
I did mention it.
You did mention it yesterday, or actually, yesterday.
Yeah.
And we raise silver fox, New Zealand black crosses. Our original buck was a full-blooded silver fox, and our original does are New Zealand black silver fox crosses. So all of our rabbits right now are all New Zealand black and chocolate silver fox crosses. I'll do one day hope to get another pure silver fox buck. I like the hybrid vigor of having a crossbreed. They're more hardy, you know, just in general, in any animal breed. I'll tell you right now, a mutt will live a lot longer than this little pure breed. Learned that the hard way recently. Yeah, sorry. I miss her. Oh, we need to show Erwin before we close out. Let's go close out in the yard.
All right.
So we can show Erwin. We have a house guest. He's out here in the yard playing. So, our house guest is our nephew. It is Chris's brother's son. His name is Erwin Ogden. Are you ready to meet Erwin?
Here, old man.
Erwin!
Here, old man.
Say hey, buddy.
You're an old man.
How are you, Erwin?
Erwin's a good boy.
You're on YouTube, buddy. Erwin is a rat terrier. He is 14 years old, and he is a great dog. He gets along with our dogs wonderful, and he's always smiling. Look how he smiles.
You get stuff in your fur, buddy.
We'd like to thank you for watching, and thank you for liking, sharing, commenting. We are so enjoying those comments from you guys. It's so much fun to get to talk to you guys and get to know y'all on a more personal level. It's pretty awesome. So anything you need to add, baby?
Hit that like and subscribe button. Hit the bell, guys. Hit the bell.
Yeah, hit all notifications so you know when every time we put out a video. Subscribe. We'll see you here tomorrow at the Blackpack Homestead on Vlogust. Take care. Thanks for watching. God bless, and bye-bye.